smart.
Hello, Nigel. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you feeling? Are you washed? Are you fed? Are you watered?
Looks very clean.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've had a wash and a shave and I've put some normal clothes on. I'm already beginning to miss the sounds of the jungle. The crickets, the kookaburra, the cuckoos, the owls, the howls of creatures we've never heard from. I mean, to be honest, I spent 23 nights in there and I loved every single minute of it. It's been the most unbelievable experience and I would not for one moment say that I regret a single moment of it. Great to be out, but I really had a fantastic time.
We spoke to Biggins a few moments ago, who said for politicians it's really, really hard, if not impossible, to win. So coming third is probably the best any politician really could hope for. Do you feel disappointed, or do you feel like third is actually, you know, quite an achievement?
Do you know what? I mean, look, if you'd said to me before this started that I'd make the final, I'd go for the final bush tucker trial, I'd be buried underground with 20 snakes all over me, that I come out with I hope some degree of dignity and come third, I'd have bitten your arm off. So I'm delighted with the way that it turned out, thrilled that I got through to the last round, and I was the outsider. You know, the other 11 people that went in there were either professional sportsmen or people from pop music or popular culture. I was the only one from the other side of the line that came from politics and current affairs. I think to get through and come third, I think for me it's been a real achievement. I am thrilled with it, delighted, and want to thank everybody, particularly GB News, who I know and I've learnt now, backed me all the way. Thank you. Everybody that supported me, that voted for me, I'm very, very grateful, very flattered and very honoured.
Well, how are you going to consolidate that goodwill and turn it into votes?
Oh, Eamon, you never give up, do you? The first thing I'm going to do is go out for dinner, because I'm starving.
Have you lost weight?
We've been living on rice and beans for a couple of weeks, so I'm going to go out for dinner. As for where life goes from here, I don't know. I mean, I've almost for a month been away from the news. From what I can see, the so-called Conservative government, I say so-called because they're not in the least bit Conservative, are in a state of total shambles, rudderless, leaderless, utterly useless, headed for catastrophe at the next election, deservedly so. That's not to say Labour will be any more competent, but somehow to think that I'm going to walk out of a jungle after 23 nights and announce a relaunch in British politics, frankly, is for the birds.
A lot has happened whilst you've been in there. Suella Braverman's been sacked. Your old nemesis, Lord Cameron, has come into the fold. Lord now, Foreign Secretary. We've also had net migration at 750,000. So much for you to digest there. But all the chatter, and I'm getting the impression from what you've just said is nonsense, but all the chatter is that you and Boris could create some sort of pact to restore the chances of the Conservatives. Now, you and I have spoken about this in the past, and you felt quite wronged by Boris in the past, that he reneged on a deal with you. Does that mean it's never going to happen again?
Never say never. Never say never. I can't predict right now what will happen. What I do think is that our country is being appallingly led, that there is no proper opposition party, and that we're living through a population crisis. And that really has little to do with the small boats, offensive though that is. It's due to the fact that over 17 million people voted for lower immigration, voted for more border controls. What they've got is a Conservative Party in hock to giant multinational businesses who want as much foreign labour as they possibly can. And if you want a GP appointment, you want to get a house for your kids, you want to drive anywhere without being stuck in on a terrible traffic jam, you can frankly go to hell. I don't believe that any government, any political class in Westminster has ever been more detached from ordinary folk. We are living through a population crisis on a level that nobody could ever anticipate. And immigration and numbers in Britain is going to become the dominant issue at the next election and for years to come. And if at some point, when I've recovered from the jungle, there's a role for me to play, I would not rule it out.
Interesting. Some people call it the dream ticket. Not ruling it out.
And if he didn't rule it out and say he became Prime Minister, he would be the only Prime Minister we've had whose bum we have seen. And the thing is...
We've talked about your bottom a lot over the last few weeks, Nigel. I'm really sorry to break this to you. And we have we've done a thorough analysis of it.
Isabel can't even look at you because she's seen more than she should have seen. But it's sort of eroticism, I think, with her. But a lot of people just...
Making me blush.
How would you describe Nigel's
His
bottom?
Very good bottom. Very impressed.
Can I just interrupt? It
Yes.
wasn't the bottom, it was the tight green lycra hot pants.
Oh, Dawn liked your hot pants. But anyway, we digress. Listen, we saw a personal side to you. I'm not talking about your private parts. But we saw your daughter, we saw your partner. This isn't something that we're used to seeing of Nigel Farage. Was that part of the calculation? Was it a nervous step for you to do that? Because I know in the public eye, that always exposes your family then to something different as well.
Well, I never ever want my family to be exposed to anything, but of course it's unavoidable with a show of this size. But I mean, you know, 2 points to make. One, I have been the most demonised person in modern British public life. You know, 10 years ago, there wasn't a single national newspaper, no significant business figure, trade union figure supported my views at all. I was the absolute fringe of the fringe, and yet what I stood for became a majority vote in the referendum. I wanted to show people that I'm not a monster. You can disagree with me, you can argue with me, but I have every right to express my views just as you do too. And when I fought in the jungle on issues with Fred and Nella and others, we finished up respecting the fact each other have points of view. After all, those that went before us fought wars for us to have that freedom. And the second point is about my bare backside, which apparently I've learned has become a story. I was told that I shouldn't be naked, and yet the doctor said personal hygiene really matters in the jungle. Checking yourself for horrors like leeches matter. Well, how could you do that unless you were naked? So I ignored what they said, and I continued to shower naked every day. Interestingly, many other campmates did the same. Only I got the publicity. But you know something? I couldn't care less.
Well, I don't think it did you any harm, Nigel.
It was much appreciated by many people, including Isabel and Dawn.